like to start. We're started? Okay, this is the Academy Building Committee, the Academy Community Center Building Committee meeting. We are in the town campus at the moment, and we have power here, so if anybody is listening on their phone and don't have power, it would include me at my house. We have a quorum, so we would like to get started on the agenda. That was a call to order. The approval of the minutes from the February 27th. Does anybody have any updates or corrections? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next is the chair's comments, and I'm going to cede that position to Peggy, Peggy Lyons, who has a message for us.
Hello, everybody. I too am without power, so I'm at somebody else's house right now. So, but I did want to at least share some in person, virtually, some good news that we received today. The town of Madison received a federal grant of $3.65 million for the Academy project. It was part of the bill. Yes, lots of, yeah. And it's incredible news. It was voted on Friday by the Senate. Our bill was sponsored by Senator Murphy in Blumenthal's office by the Senate. So I guess everything has been passed, and President Biden signed they did half the budget, and it's already been signed into law. So we have received official notice today. So that is really exciting news. That really gives us a little breathing room, hopefully, maybe if we decide to move forward about, requesting from the public additional spending capabilities. So that will raise, now that the town has received I think it's, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it's 3.65 million. And then with the 4 million we've received, that's 7.65 million. So that's very exciting news. So I just wanted to pass that on personally to you. I know you guys have been working really hard and struggling with this project. I think, you're going through that process right now about, what are the two paths? And I think it's an important analysis to go through, but it does make the path of doing the project the way the town had originally voted on this and wanted it to be completed, a more viable option, I think, now that we've received this additional grant. So we'll know more about conditions, which I do know with these grants now we've learned that there are always a few little things you got to educate yourself on about conditions, timeline, all that stuff, because every grant is different that you get from the federal government. This is sponsored by the Department of Agriculture, and it comes through a rural community grant. We're considered a rural community because we're under 20,000 residents. So as I learn more about the parameters and potential limitations of how the money can be spent, I'll pass that on to the committee. But did want to just personally give you that good news today.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any questions from anybody? No?
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Well, exciting news, and hopefully you can breathe a little easier as you kind of go through your hard work that you have in front of you. So thank you for all your service on the committee, and look forward to more discussions about this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
As Peggy noted that she's without power. I live about a block away, and we are without power also. Some of my finest notes that I've ever written for this meeting are safely stashed in my computer. So you'll have to do with just the regular stuff today. Chair, the chair comments, just quickly, we struggle with what we think was requested by the Board of Selectmen. We, in the minutes of their meeting, they actually put some notes that say exactly what or said what they were looking for. I think what we're doing today meets, maybe with some modifications, what they were looking for. But I did want to say that we can get lost in numbers pretty easily today. And I want to be sure that we stay on concepts. And if we have to recalculate numbers, that's what we have our project manager for. So we could be here till 8 o'clock or so, which, and we've done that. I don't think we have to do that today. I think we should be able to move with what we prepared rather quickly enough to get out of here at a decent time and be sure that we have all the concepts covered. And then if there's dollars to be calculated, John will do that. Okay. Al, these are the liaison reports or liaison comments. Did you want to circulate or the minutes? That's another thing that's stuck in my computer, by the way, the minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting, and there was a 1, 2, 3 in those minutes, which I am not capable of retrieving at this moment.
Al, did you hear that?
You'll have to say it again. I have the minutes. You want me to try to share them?
If you just go to the 1, 2, 3, there were 3 cases that and I want to be sure, I believe I remember them, but why don't you quote them right from the minutes?
All righty.
So that we can enter them into our, they'll be entered into our recording in our minutes.
Well, some of you actually attended the meeting in person or virtually, but I think the selectmen were interested in at least 3 numbers, which you identified during your presentation. The first one was what I call the scale build out based on what we showed the public at referendum, along with the original budget. The second was your recommendations regarding a value engineer design. In other words, what reductions in that budget do you think the committee would feel comfortable with? And I think the third was a full build out based on what we showed the public. And what would that cost? With the news Peggy shared with us this morning, or just now, I think the selectmen are probably most interested in what's it going to cost to deliver the building that more or less is what we told the public they should expect when they voted at referendum. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make value engineered reductions, but what we thought was going to cost about $16 million. What does that building cost now? What could we take to the public and say, we've learned some more things since referendum, and we've experienced dramatic fluctuations in the market. What does that original $16 million building cost at this point in time? I'm going to stop there, Joe, and see if I've further confused the situations or brought any clarity.
Any questions from the committee on that?
I think there was just the 4th option, which was then what does this committee actually recommend?
Yes.
Even with that additional grant money, we still have to go back to the public, right?
Yes.
For the
That is correct. The public gets to vote on the total price tag, as well as voting on what's it going to actually, how much actually needs to be bonded. Strangely enough, this referendum will probably be proposing a higher price tag. At the same time, this referendum will be proposing a lower actual cost to the taxpayers. It's an odd referendum for sure.
Well, I think ultimately we're sharing good news, right, Al? Prices
I would
that
consider it very
escalated,
good news.
Right, we've gotten some grants and we've offset it plus, so.
Strangely enough, we're gonna ask the public, do you approve a project that's gonna have a higher price tag than what you approved originally, but has a lower cost to the public?
Let me think about that for a minute.
That is true, but grants come with stipulations, so I think it would be important to see what those stipulations of the grants are. Because there could be conditions in there for schools, for affordable housing, green space, etc. Who knows?
Certainly, Joe, there could be strings attached and we have to learn about them, but at this point in time, I think the committee should continue its on
Fully agree.
course as you've suggested and work out these numbers for discussion at an upcoming selectmen's meeting.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Al, the application for the grant was specific to Academy School. It wasn't just like, give us 4 million, we'll do something with it. It was very specific to the community center and what we're doing.
Absolutely, that's correct, Joan. And in fact, the name of the grant award is the Academy. Let me just find it here. It's buried. I don't have it right in front of me. It actually says the Academy Community Center. That's what the grant is for.
Nice.
That's a good start at line 1.
Here we go.
It was actually, so it was it's a special projects grant that made use of the fact that we were planning to put youth and family in there. So part of the condition was that the building would be used for mental health. So that was specifically put in the application.
Actually came from the agricultural department.
That's a detail that we're just gonna have to wait for the paperwork.
Okay,
So, Al, on number 3, you had mentioned the full build out cost, but it makes sense that we could modify that with some known changes from the original proposed referendum. So that would include things like we need to have a septic change we hadn't anticipated. The MEP, we thought we could substitute, but we really can't. Or even the geothermal, maybe we don't want it, maybe we do.
I would consider, I'm going to say yes, John. I think option number 3 is what the committee is recommending to the public, with whatever adds or subtracts in the judgment of this committee is proper. We're not trying to run up the tab by any means. Number 3 should be a consensus of the committee about what we feel makes this building right, and even if it doesn't include everything that was originally postulated. Likewise, if some things have been discovered that this committee thinks should be added, that should be included in the third option.
Got it. Thank you. That helps.
thank you, Al. And the point at which we're going to discuss the options, both the ones we've prepared and any differences with that and what we have from the Board of Selectmen, is with number 10 on the under new business. I think we can move through the rest of the agenda pretty quickly. So we've already done 3 and 4 chair comments, liaison. So I'd like to do them in order, as long as we're. And is there an invoice packet? Invoice packet, and or Joan, is there a budget line item? Just out of curiosity, is that one of the things we'll have to use if we, as we go forward? Let's say we recommend not to do the geothermal. Does that become a budget line item transfer? Is that sort of the definition of it?
So
Okay.
if there's, yeah, Well, the budget line item transfer is actually within departments of the town, so if there's something that say was in CIP that needs to be approved to go into here, or vice versa, we're gonna take it out of this and apply it to something that was in CIP, it's town line items.
Okay, so it's not within the budget of within the actual original budget of our,
Right,
Committee.
it's less potential for us to do this, it was standard that we did the template that came from the school building, and they're shifting from Polson to the new building to this, to that, to that. I don't think we've got many line items within it, but the finance director would send us a notification, this is what we've moved. And it may be like out of the general fund because the grant's sitting in an undesignated fund, it's gonna get moved over to cover this cost of the thing. So
That would be like the playground, maybe we were talking about, maybe there's some funds that are available to
potentially, yeah,
do something there.
right, so something similar to that, but, you know, if they decide to do not just a septic for this one building, but for the whole building, they may put funds from CIP or the non-recurring bucket into this project because it's covering 3 extra buildings. If the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen decide to do that.
Colliers, anything other than what we're going to talk about, John?
No, nothing until we get to
Is
number 10.
Mark, Mark's not on,
Oh, no.
and Tom, anything you have other than what's teed up here?
No, we're good.
This is a spot for public comment. Gene, does anybody have any, is there any other public on? Anybody here who is actually members of the public? Austin, Bill? Nope, okay. Get right down to business. Begin. Option 1 and option 2 are essentially the same option. What they do is very different, some different decisions on what goes in and what goes out. Option 1, now we're not talking about the options that Al's talking about. These are the ones that are on the page in our in the handout. Option 1 used some assumptions that were based on the meeting that we had on February 27th. That was our last meeting. And well, I don't have notes on that anymore. It was basically, the difference was a partial allocation of funds out of the painting and the doors and floors and finishes, allocation of pieces of that, enough to get a building, the Madison Youth and Family Services and the Beach and Rec offices complete. Well, I don't know about complete. Strike the word complete. That there would be adequate offices for those 2 departments to do their functions.
They could occupy it. Occupiable, yes. Occupiable, that's a good one to use.
Can we get a CO for?
Yes. The second, any questions on that?
Just for clarification, as a part of option 1, some of the building would not get finished.
Some of the building would have no finishes whatsoever. Basketball court, for instance, would not have, I imagine they'd have to take the tile and the mastica in some way and leave what we would presume is a concrete floor underneath. So that part of the building would be closed. I mean, that could not function. You could not use it for any space, you cannot use that space for anything.
At this point.
Yeah,
At this point, that's when it would, with this level of construction, correct,
Which lot?
right. So that means it would have to go into CIP.
And also another clarification is option 1 also incorporates the alternate design with respect to the elevator.
Right.
So, okay.
Once again, not something that any one of us said we would actually put forth, but we got to a 15.9.
right. Option 2
It's
on
jury-rigging.
our list made a somewhat different assumption. It made the first assumption that all the painting and all the floors would be finished. And that way, the entire building would be at least occupiable. Things like the corridors, which would may be closed in option one, would be open for movement in option two. And it also, and the second part of, or the other thing that's included in here that's not included in option one was the full cost of the septic system, because that's the direction we were given by the town when we met with town planner, town safety department. We were told that the septic was an academy issue, because none of the other buildings in the area or the final version of a septic system for the town was on any timeline that would be capable of handling academy. Academy wanted to open on any kind of schedule. It was responsible for the septic. The other thing that was added that wasn't in the original, not in option one, was some outside work. That was the ability to have sidewalks and a parking lot, which would be necessary, or some version of that would be necessary in order to occupy the building.
In this option, Joe?
Which
did
one?
Option two.
Okay.
In this option, in order to allocate funds for that work, finish it and do site work, I'm presuming you took the alternate entrance.
Yes.
Yes.
The alternate entrance is the same. The other thing that when we did that, it appeared as though there was the Madison, neither of the offices for Madison Beach and Rec or Madison Youth and Family Services would be occupiable as offices. They would have floors and painting like the rest, but the money ran out before we could allocate anything to the offices. I think either of these two options, option one or option two, meets the first criteria in that what do you get for your, and by the way, we're only talking about the construction costs. So we're limited to construction costs here. FFE is a sort of a wild card. If we needed any money, we weren't going to put sofas in the entryway or in the lounge at the entryway. We might be able to use that use those funds for something else. But when we go to the public, we're going to have to come up with the 15.9. We're going to have to go all the way down to the 15.9 and then all the way down to the bottom. And
Joe,
John, that is something
Joe,
that is something that our project
can I
manager.
ask which you're looking at? I'm trying to keep up with you. But
Option two, we're looking at presently.
what's the name of the document? Because I was looking through the things I was sent, and I have the BOS cost options from John, but it's a single scenario for original referendum.
It would have been, there's one email that had like 6 documents attached to it.
It may be,
Is it
it may be out of your site. You may have to scroll down in the attachments. There should be option one and option two. And then there are budgets that go with that.
And the one I have open is single page.
Okay, yeah,
All right,
that's
I'll
just-
keep.
that's the
That,
cover
look at,
page.
look at before that, that was a replacement for option one. So look at an email.
There was an
Um,
email last night, John, that I sent about 9:30 maybe.
Yeah.
You want one of us to forward it to you?
Yeah, it would be helpful if you could. My apologies. And John, that was from you?
Oh, that was from me, from John Copeless last night.
Oh, okay.
which would be 6:30 your time,
I
right?
just sent it again, John, so hopefully be at the top of your phone.
So the only thing I would say between 1 and 2 is that 2 is not as strong of an option to show the public because the grants that we're getting require that Youth and Family Services be in the building. So I don't think we want to say we can't do it because we got these grants. I think that would be be received negatively, I think, from the public, rather than saying, here's one that's 15.9, it doesn't get everything done that needs to be done in the building, but we will still have the grants that for the building.
Then we
Without
have-
Youth and Family Services renovations, they can't do their work in that building.
That if we did that, then we'd have to modify option 1 to say that the sanitary system would have to, you have to have the sanitary system.
Well, I understand that, but the sanitary
But we-
system potentially can come from another source.
We could,
because-
we could
because-
make that caveat.
Yeah, that would be the caveat, that the sanitary system would come from another source of funding, that's what we said. I mean, there's a, between, if you're gonna look at it and dig something up, does it make sense to link all of the buildings to the one sanitary system so that they're not individual septics that are going through, was a discussion. And the second piece of it was that, because the dollar figure was 50,000 and it's more towards $250,000, it was an unanticipated item, which is pretty much the definition of a special appropriation. So there are other potential funding sources for that one piece, which is why that was kind of the one that we requested to go back to the board of selectmen and say this, no matter what, it's gonna have to go you have to get that.
And there would also have to be a note under basic site renovations, which would have to include sidewalks or some sidewalks and walkways. So you could actually get in and out of the building.
From,
If
For
we
the
want to use
entrance.
option 1 as the preferred,
right,
there's the bottom line, the bottom of what's in is basic site renovation.
it's still in there in
It's
option
it's
1.
still in there, but there would have to be some note that included walkways.
Just walkways and nothing else. Yeah, so I think we can refine the wording on that. Go on to the really exciting ones, though.
And I wanted to vote on each of these so that we actually, everybody gets a chance, everybody gets to say what they want. Go.
So back to the septic issue, and I don't know if that's been resolved or not, but I went to the initial meeting here with the health department, I believe, one of the representatives here. So part of the issue is that the way the parcels are numbered in that area, and our route is going through, potentially through one of those parcels, that we're gonna have to connect that septic system up. It can't be separated out. It's just like a fact.
Right.
And I believe one of the leaching systems is underneath the pavement, which could be a parking lot. So we have to tie them together. We don't have a choice.
Right.
So how it gets paid, that's one thing, but there's no way we're gonna get away with not tying in all those septic systems in that area.
That was kind of the push for it to not necessarily just be on this budget entirely, to be able to get more funds into it, whether it be total or partial, I think.
And it makes sense for the tenant, right?
Yeah.
Take care of the whole campus and be tied into a new system.
And you're done. You're not thinking about it for a long time from that point, no matter what's happening in those other buildings. Yeah.
And I guess another, we could make, if we either note or actually show the funding in the $700,000 in fixtures and equipment. Is that something, if there's only one, if there are 2 sets of offices, we don't need all the in this design, in option 1.
Correct. And then the other thing to look up for the FFBs, we are closing 2 schools that have furniture. It may not be the perfect furniture, but it could be usable furniture that isn't moving to the new school or to Brown. There may be some savings there. It may not look the best initially, but at least you'll be able to sit in a chair or a couch or something like that. I mean, we've got Jeffrey and, Ryerson closing. So there's some potential there.
Potential.
Not a lot, I
Well,
wouldn't say to fill.
That's a potential. Let's maybe
Right.
put that aside for a second.
I'm just saying.
Now let's John to do something else. If you can somehow allocate how much of the FFE goes into the two offices that we're talking about, and maybe a lounge, see what's left, and be able to allocate that to whatever, not septic, walkways or anything else that we might need.
Well,
Yeah.
and just to clarify, just to clarify too, the FF&E is not just furniture. I mean, there's a couple line items there that consist of furnishings, which was allocated for 135,000 of that 700. Then there's program-related equipment, there's data telecom equipment, there's audio-visual equipment, there's security costs. Kitchen equipment, if you remember, was a line item, it was $125,000 allocated for that. And then the last item is specialty signage. So, it's just to clarify, it's not just furnishing.
Right.
Not, tables, chairs, and couches of that 700,000.
Right.
Yes.
But in fairness, I would just comment, this is a bare bones budget and you're not fitting out most of the building, then it doesn't necessarily make sense to have FF&E allocation or kitchen equipment allocation, because those would be done at a later date. You're just doing as much as you possibly can and then looking for potential temporary furniture or moving furniture, whatever. So that would make sense in the bare bones scheme. And now seeing this, and realizing that this one doesn't have fit out for, feature rec, and youth family services, I guess I would agree with Joan. I didn't think about this when we were talking about it, but if the grant stipulates that they have to be in the building, then I think option 2 really is a non-starter in its current form. Option 1 should probably be modified into one option and take those comments.
Can we use that as a motion? That we accept option 1 as the first option that is identified by the Board of Selectmen, and we modify it in order to take care of the things that we just discussed. And if there's any shortfall in the building, in the construction budget, that we allocate some of the FFE dollars to that, to those items.
Good motion. It was good. No, that was good. I'll second
I
that.
got this, once I got the stuttering out.
Yeah.
Discussion, any other discussion on that motion?
I think that allows us to get the full grant that was originally.
Yes, even if we.
But we
went
don't
with
know about
this.
the second one or what the stipulation is that. We're assuming that we don't get that one.
No, we're getting both grants. It's just what the fine print is going to.
Right. In this way, the Madison Youth and Family Services is in it from the beginning. All of our discussions have Madison Youth and Family Services.
And Joe, if I can clarify for the committee, your motion or the motion on the table is just to revise option 1 and to modify it. The board isn't accepting this as the option that you're
No.
recommending.
This for informational purposes, to show what can potentially be done with 15.9 at this point and to see the gaps that are gonna be there.
We're essentially accepting the analysis as given, which is what can be built for, in this case, 15.6 million. And we're looking at the construction budget of 12.9.
So if we can save from the FFEs, say, okay, but you're also not gonna get furniture and this equipment, but you can then get the sanitary system in there. That's for an example, throwing it out there. Then that to me is like to refine option 1.
Okay, you got your charge, John?
I believe so.
Okay.
my notes are correct, then yes.
We got a motion in a second.
In a second. And any other discussion? In favor? Aye?
Aye.
Like,
Unanimous, good, thank you. So that takes care of option 1 and option 2 on our agenda.
So I have to say that option 3 has the same problem as option 2, which is no beach and rec and no youth and family services renovations.
hello. Just confirm, just for clarity, it's Madison Youth and Family Services, right? Not, the grant requires mental health Madison Youth and Family Services, not beach and rec?
No,
Or-
but there's got a beach and rec is gonna program the whole building, so somewhere along.
I get it, but we taught it to the grant, being able to utilize the grant.
I don't know exactly what the language is with it, what qualifies as mental health
So the,
services.
so the grant that Peggy wrote, and I know this because I gave her some of the language around youth and families. Part of the requirement of the funding had to be spent on, I believe it was youth mental health, but was specific to mental health. And so she included youth and family services as a part of this building when she wrote the grant as a part of the application. So the very basis of the application for this particular funding means that you're using that building in part as a multi-purpose building that includes mental health.
And I think option 3 doesn't agree with what the Board of Selectmen wanted. The definition of option 3 does not agree with that. This still says, no, it doesn't. I believe. Look at that, who got that?
When I looked at number 3, that was what it would cost to build out what was in the referendum.
Okay.
Right? Option 3?
It's with an unlimited budget, or what would be the budget if we were to build out what was in the referendum?
Yeah, sort of a zero base from today's dollars.
Yes. And this doesn't, what we have here in option 3 doesn't satisfy that unless we just take everything that's in the right-hand box, push it into the left-hand box, and then what's in and what's out will change, and everything that's out will be in.
Yeah, I'm about.
And that sort of becomes option 4.
That's option 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so why don't we focus on 4 then, knowing, and then maybe culling back if we want to on that? Does that make sense?
4, what is 4? 4 is what we recommend, I thought.
So I thought the 3 things we were doing is the 12-1, whatever, 11-9,
Yeah.
right? We're doing or the next one was, what can we build for what was in the referendum and anything we added in or found afterwards. And then the third one is all in with everything we want.
What we want, like,
Well, what's in the referendum plus extras. and
Plus the
anything.
alternate.
So-
The alternate, right, the stuff that popped up.
So, right, so we've got the 15.9. What, and even this, without a new playground, if we're gonna be digging up the playground, we have to put a new playground in, so I'd have to move that to the next level, my thought process.
which one you look at?
Well, option
This is
3,
4.
option 3 has some things that are excluded that we need to do.
Right. That's why I
Yeah.
said, maybe we
So-
take 4 and say, add playground to that, up the number, and then start from 4 and cull back a little bit to get to what our recommended would be. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
Yeah, it seems like
that's-
option 4 is what we would end up recommending with some
Yeah, I think-
adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's what they kind of, option 4 is everything but geothermal.
No
That's option
patio
4
and no playground,
in this, and the playground.
right. And the-
That's,
and
that's not the Board of Selectmen, that's what we have on paper in front of us.
Right.
Option 4 is everything, except we took out geothermal and we did not put in the playground.
Right.
And we didn't put in the $1 million site upgrade. And
It's like paving.
I keep saying, if we get a fountain in there, I think I'd love to put that in.
Love to see
Everybody
it
knows
happen.
how much to get tonight, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, so do we think that once again, number 3 may be off the table just because of the amount of things that aren't in there?
But I think option 3, if we put everything in there that was in the referendum, then that gives us the second thing that the Board of Selectmen had.
But
That's
this
right.
isn't, option 3 is not everything that was in the referendum. Beach and Rec isn't in there.
No, that's right,
services-
but if we take the box on the right-hand side,
But that's what I'm saying, we're becoming number 4 then, is my point. If we look at number 4 and number 3, they're very close.
right,
So
but
we don't really need number 3 if we start with number 4.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things here. One is,
Go ahead.
we'll come to a recommendation on what we recommend, and that may be 4. But when we started off in this exercise, or ended the last meeting, was let's think about this in terms of how we present this or talk about this with the town. And option 3 is just, hey, what would it cost from a zero base up to give you what was in the referendum? And obviously there's things we would add in, there's things like septic that got piled on afterwards. So it's not so much take it out, but it's create that narrative of here's some options.
But 3 doesn't have the options included. We have to add back in youth and family services.
But why doesn't it include youth and family services? I mean, it includes the build out, includes furniture, fixture, equipment.
Saying no youth and family services office renovations.
She's looking at the.
I'm looking at I'm looking at the
bullets.
proposal. If the proposal language is wrong, let me know.
So
That's what I'm looking,
this is counter to what the
dollar
at the
figure.
top,
Yeah,
at the top, it says construct building according to the original referendum project description.
right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the
And
narrative is wrong.
things that aren't included.
Right.
So this.
Is
doesn't
this
make
a
sense.
cut and paste issue or is this a?
Joan, I think you're better off if you go to the budget.
That's what I'm looking at.
Option 3. I think it's clearer there what's in and why Beach and Family was, Beach and Rec and Madison Family Services.
Yeah, when you
Because-
look at that, you'll see the full build out of the walls, the painting, the floors, so on and so forth.
So John, I
It
just
is-
have to ask you, then
It
is,
is a cut and paste.
it is a cut and paste issue.
Yes, so, the, excuse me, the summary for option 3, the Beach and Rec Office and the Youth and Family Services should be part of the inclusion.
Okay. And even though it says renovation to the gymnasium stage, it's saying minor modification to the gymnasium, no scoreboard or equipment. Is that still correct?
That is still correct.
But was that not?
That,
what
the
was-
scoreboard and equipment, that's one of the alternates.
Does that include hoops?
Right, yeah, that was that,
So
Slide
no
hoops.
hoops,
What
so
did
no
the
hoops,
original
no nothing?
referendum-
right, basketball equipment and scoreboard, one of the alternates. That is not. in
John, the reason you're writing that as an alternate is, that was in the original scope. But that was we took that out in our first value engineering.
Correct.
So it really would be part of the original scope. All of that would be, Tom, like,
But I think originally the.
It was all in the original scope.
yes.
And I'll interject, but I think, we may have confused this a little bit, me and John, in our efforts to put these options together, but listening to Al, it sounded like the 3 options needed are the bare bones option, the option that this committee recommends, which in this scheme is option 4 plus some revisions, and what is the cost if we did everything, the full boat and kahuna, so that the Board of Selectmen can say, hey, this is what it really costs to do the project now, but this is where the committee,
Right.
is showing.
So
We can
literally
do that.
adding, so to me, we modify, we really focus on number 4, refine it, and then
Add everything else in to get.
add everything else into number 4, including geothermal and everything else, and saying, okay, that's, so,
We could go either way.
yeah.
We could put it all in.
Yeah, I don't know if they're always additive though, right? Because like the septic, and then it wouldn't be in the original scope, it would only be in our proposed.
I think that's just a little detail in regards to the septic, because we're talking about one item that's 200K. Technically part of the septic was in the original scope. The whole septic was not in the original scope. But I think if you take if this committee takes option 4 that's presented tonight, adds in the playground essentially.
The geothermal.
Oh,
Cause that was.
Hold on for
What
one
did you say?
second. Adds in the geothermal, or adds in the playground scope if the town doesn't have the means to do that anymore. Then you can say, oh, that's the recommended option, that's the middle option. But then you take that recommended option and you add the geothermal in, and site work in, and the few add alternates that weren't selected, and set, because that's where the original referendum scope was. Then you have 3 options. You have the base bid option. This is what we can deliver for 15.9.
Yeah.
This is the option 3 is the whole boat. This is what was in the original referendum, everything, geothermal,
Yeah.
stage renovations, playground relocation, all the site work. That's it. Like, I don't know, 19 or 17, 19 or whatever it'll be. And then, but here's what the committee recommends. This is, this is a responsible approach to the project. We believe that it, based on our research, we don't need to do the geothermal plan. We don't need to do the site work. And we can deliver the project for 2.7 million above its base, which is lower than the referendum cost. Does that make sense? Or am I confusing you?
No,
No,
absolutely.
That makes sense.
Pretty simple enough to me. It's a simple presentation too.
I agree.
I agree.
Hey, guys, I've been deferring this conversation because it didn't seem like the right time to finish it. But now we've got a $400,000 price tag attached to upgrading a gymnasium stage. And I sent you the position paper already that says I just don't think it's going to be feasible to program it. We need to have that conversation at some point. Joe, I'll leave it up to you what the right time is to have that discussion.
I think what you're saying is we can build it, but they won't come.
Well, there's a lot of warts on it. To have to schedule around it in a heavily programmed gymnasium and have a dedicated space already for a smaller theater, are we going to be able to set up 350 chairs for an event in that space? On a regular basis, I think it's going to be way too cumbersome to be able to make use of that stage for entertainment. And we've got the other theater that we're going to be improving to a point where it's usable for smaller scale productions, but not large scale productions. So we need to really have that discussion about whether we really recommend that or not.
Don't have one comment, and then I'd like to sideline that issue. Get the rest of this done, put the $400,000 in as an add alternate, and then have that discussion. Maybe at some other time.
It sounds like
So,
And
Joe, you get a comment.
I disagree that what is being built would be able to be used for any theater company that would be willing to rent the space. The one that in the recital, it just isn't going to be big depth breadth enough to be able to do it. And I also disagree that we can't program because, there's a way of doing it where they come in the weekend before or the 2 days before, and there's still stuff going on in the gym, and it's just a matter of timing of programming, allowing, they're not going to be using it for a rehearsal space potentially. They'll have other spaces if you're and this is, this is what the Cape does. You go in the Thursday, the Wednesday before the production is going up on Friday, you load in, you build, you have the seats, and those seats would be done on, we just have to block out that timing for anything else that the gym would be used for. And you do that in advance. That's where you'd have somebody very much specialized in understanding the needs on both sides. But, we have at least close to a dozen basketball courts in this town. I think the pickleball court's probably going to be the bigger draw, to tell you the truth, in that space. And, if you can utilize that except for, you know, performance evenings and performance days. I think it's very useful. So
Okay.
that's all I think.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
And we'll put that discussion aside and we'll, for the moment, we'll have a.
Joe, just one last comment. I would like to suggest that we should probably get Austin involved in the conversation because he's going to be responsible for that programming. And so it makes sense for him to have his voice heard in this as well.
Is there anything you'd like to say now, Austin?
No, I agree that I should be involved in the conversation and when that happens, when you see fit to have that.
Okay.
Can I add more piece,
Okay.
just to simplify?
I've got my eye on the clock.
Are you spending, just last thing, so the original task of our design team in renovating the community center was to renovate the gym, the stage for performing arts level. Our team has not done a detailed, like a full detailed design of the stage, but the stage needs proscenium improvements, stage improvements, it needs curtains at a minimum. So in the referendum scope of work, a certain allocation has to go towards renovating and upgrading the stages. We put in an allowance, a $400,000 allowance, because that would give us a range of improvements to go really high or really low. So the reality is our team would recommend carrying the allowance of $400,000 to upgrade the performing arts spaces. And then throughout the construction document phase or the next phase of the work, we could potentially VE that or fine tune what that scope is and come to a harder number as to what that cost is actually going to be. Is it going to be 250? Is it going to be 415? Is it going to be 300? So if you're planning for what the ideal solution is, I recommend carrying this allowance and you can work it backwards in the future.
So it's not an ad alternate, it's an allowance, which is something different.
It's like a plug number.
It's what?
It's like a
It's
plug
the budget number, an allowance number. It's an allowance in the budget to renovate the stage. At the end, as we go into the more detailed design work, that number could become a little bit less. It can always be bigger, but I think realistically you should carry it moving forward in your recommendation. You can debate how much it is, but the original referendum scope of work called for renovation.
So John, when you put together what we call option one, which is, it's option one for us, option one for the town, that allowance should be in there since it was part of the original scope.
Can't afford.
No, for option one.
Well, no, the gym's closed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't have a gym.
No.
Option one is a bare bones.
Yeah, bare bones.
Gym's
Option, the second option, all in, would have an allowance for the stage.
Correct.
Whatever number we do, the all-in number should have an allowance for the stage. For the stage.
The other thing, I remember from the
Does everybody agree to that?
Yes.
So that's part of the motion, then.
That's what was in the original, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the all-in original.
Okay, yep,
Yes.
agree.
Now, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, what I did here is when we go back up to referendum, we've got to have a number that we present as the total budget that we want to ask for, right? So Tom's point, if we have things can't go over again, right? So we've got to be very careful with what allowances we do put into the budget to make sure that there's no chance of us going back to the public hearing. Oh, right. Sorry, we need a little extra.
And the other thing we can't do when we go to the public is say we're gonna put a performance level stage in the gym and then later say, oh, no, we didn't do
We
it.
can't afford it.
Yeah, so that's
We
not,
haven't done our.
so the discussion that we talked about having has to be, on a soon basis.
I would feel comfortable with things like that if we've actually done some work to arrive at some numbers, right? Allowances scare me a little bit when we're gonna go to referendum and say, I don't know that area that well, and you could say, oh geez, it's actually 600, not 400, now we're 200 kids short, and
Well, at least a conversation about what those 400 or whatever the number is intended to include.
yeah, so we have
Is it
some
instructions?
awareness.
Does it include stage lighting equipment, sound gear, all of that?
Right, are we at a mid-level, is this a high end, where does it sit for us?
So the note would be before referendum, we've got to have that locked down.
Right, and I would also say if you're gonna put a budget number on that, the well, let's see, 1 and 3, and we're gonna be in the middle on 2, so to speak. Can we say that number 2 is what we'll probably recommend to the committee, to the board of select, or
I think it's more like
1?
low, high, middle.
Okay, so the
What we're
high,
recommending is
so
the
that,
third
so
option.
the, what we're gonna say is the one that's gonna include everything that we're probably gonna call back from, because including the geothermal and everything else, should have, lighting equipment, sound equipment, all of that in there as well. Because then it can be called down and we can say, okay, in order to do this, we're gonna get this, this, and this. Cool. Because
Similarly with the kitchen. or
Correct,
any other
similarly
section of
with
the
the-
building.
kitchen equipment and then recommend. And the other piece is if we do have to go, there's also ways of getting private funding that is allowable as well. That's something that, we
But if
have,
we can avoid that complexity, better to avoid that.
if it means the second referendum passing correctly, you know what I'm saying? So it's a matter of where the numbers come out. That's the thing.
It seems like donations is better for getting the real, the costumes and equipping the dressing rooms, stuff that we might not have as much input into it, something of the finer details, but
So I think
Again-
for this exercise, we can leave it, right?
Right.
Move on.
Right.
We can always go back. We're gonna have some work to do before we refine a number that we're gonna go to a referendum with.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But the fact that we've got these 3.
Understood, but we need to look at escalation again and all these things.
Right.
'Cause,
Exactly.
Bill, you have a,
Thank you, Joe. When you decide to hold the discussion about the facilities for performing arts, I think it'd be helpful. Our advisory committee held a focus group with 4 outside theater and performing arts groups, and they had very specific recommendations. I think it'd be helpful if we had a chance to present that. We also did the same with culinary in the kitchen, what culinary experts and users of the facility would recommend to have included. So that's all in print form. I can have it printed out and distributed when you decide to have that discussion.
thank you, Bill.
If it's in an electronic form, if you could
Yeah,
send it to us
I-
ahead of time
yeah.
this week, that would be great, so we
I'll
could
do that.
review.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Easily done.
May I ask one question, Joe? Tom, that 400K allotment, does that include the auditorium as well? Or the other?
So that had its
That's a
own
separate
line.
line.
That was 400,000 just for the gymatorium. For lack of a better term.
Thank you, yeah. We were calling main stage versus recital stage.
Yeah. Main stage, for the main stage area.
Would the retractable seating be included in that 400,000?
Number.
It's in here.
A separate
Oh,
line.
separate, but it's in here.
Yes.
I just think that the retractable seating has other purposes besides the stage, right? You want to use something on the porch. The robotics competition, right? They should have seating for people to watch, right?
Right.
Elevate, like, I think that this will.
Yeah, there's,
The seating has other purposes.
correct.
So I think now we're pretty much talking about the all-in number, that, and we're gonna take out some things for our recommendation. Is that right?
Well, it looks like option 3 is everything we would want, right? It's geothermal, the playground and the site improvements, only 3 things that are out.
You're saying option.
Option 4.
Option 4, sorry.
Today's
So
option
Sorry,
can
sorry,
we
today's
say we're
option
gonna
4.
focus- We're gonna take 2 and 3 out of the conversation. Yes,
Right.
okay.
So we have 1 complete. We're working on a second one, which is option 4 on this sheet,
Correct.
on this paper. And And if I look, is $400,000 as a,
That is in this list,
That's it.
yes.
yeah, I'm trying to find it. Where is it?
It's,
It's actually-
it's
it's
two
actually on-
lines after the green. markup.
The second italicized.
Stage
line.
renovation.
Yep.
$400,000. The only thing that I would, there's one thing I don't believe is I think everything in this, in the clear-story stage renovations that I'm hearing, the bleacher basketball, new stage and outdoor partitions, that was all part of the original. So these should not be, my view, these should not be listed as add alternates.
Right, they were add alternates when we started to try to get down to 15.9.
Right.
That's why we put them as add alternates, yes.
The baseball field is too.
Yeah, I don't know about the
We
baseball
have to-
fields.
why would we-
No,
Let's-
the only reason I ask is that why the playground wasn't included?
Playground wasn't included originally because it was thought that there was some funding for that in CIP. I don't know if that
No,
funding
but
is still
if we
there.
don't,
It's not there.
do the
It's
baseball field, the playground's gonna go back where it is today.
Well, I think the playground is where the septic's going.
Well, it's going through there. It's going,
Underneath.
the pipes will be underneath it, right? That's not what the leaching field. It's further out to the north.
Yeah, but can you put the pipes in without,
No, I'm saying you're gonna put a new playground. I guess, only point is where is it going?
The playground isn't part of our scope. The playground is its own scope.
I know, but if we route through it, it's gonna have to be replaced.
Right.
So if we replace it, is it staying in its current location, or are we moving it closer to the building, which we wanted to do with the new parking lot?
well, then,
Kids
Are
that,
you calling this
that
part of
also,
our recommendation or part of?
I'm
the
not
original
asking
scope?
because these things were excluded from option 4. I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify why.
well, moving the playground also meant switching to baseball fields.
Correct.
Because the playground would go where the backstop is for the Little League field,
Or next to it, right? Yeah. Or with the dugout.
or too close to the Little League field to be a playground.
Under the design?
Yeah.
That was,
They all wear hard
Yeah.
hats.
when there is a grand design, if you remember, the grand design was $1 million design that Tom did. And it moved the playground closer to the building and it
Yes.
flipped the baseball fields. Flipped them,
Oh, okay.
So they
So
face
I
each
remember a design that had it almost next to the parking lot.
and,
That must be it.
and that's about what the backstop is for the
Time field.
for the Little League.
It's more like with the dugout.
dugout. But you really won't want to put I don't think you would want to put a playground that close to, where the backstop and
Okay.
with the
My
dugout.
only
It's different
point is,
than
my
my
only
memory,
point is
that's
that
all.
for picking option 4 with some exclusions, what actually we're leaving out. Right. So I think we need a new playground regardless of where it goes, because we're gonna dig up the original one. Either it goes where it is today, or we move it closer.
Okay, I want to back off for a minute. I'm going to go back to the building the clear-story stage 10-tier basketball, blah, blah, blah. I think that section belongs in the building construction phase. Because that was all part of the original design. So we could leave it separately, I don't care, but it would not be an add alternate. Is that,
Well,
is there any agreement or disagreement with that?
our basketball equipment has gone up in value because we've added the scoreboard.
We've added what?
Original added the scoreboard.
Okay.
Originally, we had basketball equipment like 40 grand, now we're at 77. I'm fine either way, I just want to point that out.
Okay.
My understanding was this ideal approach, that stuff would be above the line.
And I think some of that we could take out if we wanted to. To get to the final.
Right.
So what I would recommend then is those line items stay where they are, and I would, just cross off the add alternate note, just because those costs include the markups.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
if those are brought up above that
Sure,
line,
sure.
then that's gonna impact the markup cost that's down in the yellow highlight, if you will.
Can you make another subtotal underneath it then? So we have the full construction costs?
Sure.
Except the markup will be messing with that number a little bit.
And you can, if you have to remove the markup or anything you have to do that, please be sure that this set indicates that it is part of the original design and it should be in the full cost.
I mean, the total in green is correct, right?
The dark green?
Yeah.
Mhm. The total in the dark green is,
So regardless of what you do with the subcategories
Oh,
above.
so are you saying in this scheme, I guess the clarification is, in this scheme, the add alternates, clear story through operable partition.
ones that are italics, yep.
Yeah, those are included in the bottom line. Those are
Yes.
excluded from.
Oh, no, yeah, those are still included in the bottom line.
Oh, so it probably, if you just remove the add alternate language.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I'm
we
saying.
were-
I can just take out the
And then subtotal both the building construction and the other.
And you could note subtotal, because those have the markups embedded in them, correct? That's why they're not moved up.
The ones in the italics size print have the markups included, correct?
So it is,
So the appropriate thing would be to pull the markup out and show it down below, correct?
Or just put them below.
above the line.
Put them below the market.
You could put them below the mark.
That's what I'm saying,
I said
below the
just
line,
up
Yeah.
here.
However,
either or.
Yeah, I
Up
think
without
if
the markups.
from a,
that doesn't
Because the
bother us
markup should be
architects, it's
included
the
down in the
accountants that.
Yeah,
so I think
So-
from a public
Split hairs.
presentation standpoint, they should go above the line, the markups should be removed from them, and the markup should be totaled with the markups, because, and then somewhere along the way, as we delete, there should be some kind of piece to then reduce markup, so that we know if we're taking something out, how much out of the markup.
Well, but the markups should all be calculated based upon whatever's above.
Right,
Right.
right.
So you're saying anything that doesn't have like, that isn't like
You
italicized?
don't
is not
have to,
markup
I don't
on
think
it?
we need to be that complicated.
No,
But
The
I
markup
think
is-
the markup has gotta be taken
The
out.
markup just becomes building construction markup and gets moved
Yeah.
up.
But not on.
Construction.
But not on the
253.
But I don't wanna have two different groups of building construction, because then people are gonna line.
Markups from.
Construction.
Yeah.
Oh, because they were.
I think it should be one list
They're
of
at
the
all,
building
so that's-
construction.
Got it.
price
then the
with
markup
the
that goes
markup.
So that shouldn't really change the number.
No, it doesn't change.
It
Yeah,
won't
but
change the
no.
number, we just have to,
Well, if you use the same percentages, it changes.
What it'll do is it'll make the building construction subtotal larger.
yes,
It will eliminate this section from clear story to operable partitions, and it'll make the markup costs larger, but the total should remain the same. If John did his math right.
correct.
Mhm.
And we'll find that out.
Same with the sanitary system,
And,
and the site construction.
and I think in this section, we would also add the geothermal back in,
Correct,
and that also will change the markup.
Yes.
In the case of the grand scheme.
the grand scheme.
The
Yeah,
the one that's
that might
gonna end
not
up
be
being
in
the
our-
largest number.
But might not be, but still, it would be, it would be here, and eventually, when we go to referendum or to the public, we're not gonna have all these line items. I mean, at some point, we're gonna collapse the line items to be a little more, and some of this would then, and some things would then go into a narrative.
Well, I think the line items aren't that arduous, I think they're, if they stay as is, do you know what I mean? I think it's a good review, it's fairly consistent, not exact, you can't go one-to-one with what was in the prior one for the estimating, but,
I would say they're not arduous to people who deal with Excel all the time and budgets and numbers. I think they're arduous to people who don't deal in those. But that's, again, that's future.
We're not worried about it.
So can we also, like, you were talking, should we move the new sanitary system up with the site construction as well?
There's a couple questions I have. The site construction, are you working your way down the list?
Yes, we're trying.
Okay, so we made it through the 5 or 6, right? So now we're down to site construction.
Yes,
What exactly is site preparation and demo? That's outside?
That's correct. It's also demo and prep for the new entryway. There's general site work that is broken out, that's in the estimate that's allocated to other tasks.
So we should probably just call that general site work. We need it. It's not, what do you demo? The outside,
well, you're
tie
demoing,
in the building, that's what you're demoing.
Site, there's site improvements around the building that have to be demoed.
That's fine, no, I just, for clarity. Water line check, what's paving of parking lot?
That was, in the original scope of work, that's the new parking lot.
Okay, so it should be a new parking lot, right, we're not paving the road in front. Correct. And then exterior improvements, that's the side of Academy that you want to reface or whatever?
No.
Or just touch up?
Line item.
Alright, get that. And then why is the abatement scope down here?
Just because right now CSI division puts it in that site work division.
But that's
Demo and
interior.
abatement. I know, but demo and abatement goes in that category. It could be broken out. We can pull it into its own category.
Yeah, it should go under demo scope, right?
Dave, what is your goal with the modification?
Oh, no, I'm just trying to put the list of things that we actually need, that this wouldn't be like something we would exclude, right? The abatement scope should be in the top line. top group.
Yeah,
So it's my opinion, we wouldn't exclude any of this, so I.
Well, I'm saying for clarity, so if we're gonna present it at some point, we should
well,
move
we
them.
might have,
Right, because they say what abatement is outside if we're saying site construction.
If I'm asking a question, somebody else can ask.
that's fair.
But again, I don't want to spend too much time on it, I'm just saying that,
No, I think that's.
right? I mean, we'll clean it up obviously before we do anything, but I'm just saying these things that
Okay. Your brain is thinking about how do we present the numbers and what do the categories look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
again, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but again, those, right, those are gonna get.
No, that makes sense. The way I understood what you were trying to do, it made sense. I just didn't understand what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
And,
on top of the,
so in the new
original-
sanitary system. will
some,
go.
some of the original work, some of the original estimates had, pointing and masonry work outside the building, and that was VE'd out on the first, on our first round. Is that in here anywhere now, or is that fallen out altogether? And if it isn't here, should we put it in?
I believe it's in, and I don't know.
That's part of
where.
exterior improvements?
Yeah, exterior improvements.
That's what I thought, the 97,000.
Yeah,
That sounds.
that's part of it.
If it's in, it's something we agreed that we could take out. If it's not in, we should put it in and then take it out.
Yeah.
If
Well, that was part of it.
or we could just shut up and just forget about it. It never
Well-
existed.
Well, we're trying to make a recommended.
Well, first we're making this is what you said, and then then we should say, what are the things that we're gonna potentially say yes or no to on there? Is there any, I wanna get these in the right areas, and then we say, okay, what do we want, is there anything on these lists that we could reduce potentially or increase?
Let's get back to the question, John. What happened to that? It was a couple $100,000, I remember. It wasn't a small number. And I actually have the number at home. It's in my computer.
I think, I'm not saying it's not in here, I just know that in modifying and pulling things from the original estimate, it could be lumped into, one of these other items.
And John, you weren't here when this was done.
Which makes it a little more.
How about the action item here is, I'll get that list of the original, I have the original VE list.
It could be in the masonry.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
because I was gonna say, are there other things on that list too?
Well, we just don't want to miss something.
Because
Right.
masonry is 245, there's not, I'm looking at.
It
this
could
piece
be
here.
in the masonry number, cause the elevator shaft itself is only worth 75,000. And, you know, there's a few other CMU walls in the building, so it's probably in that number. Oh, John can confirm that, and I can work with him.
If it is in that number, that's something that we would take out.
Masonry restoration?
Yeah.
And isolate it, you're saying?
Well, however, that's what we agreed to before. If we want to leave it in, then we won't take it out.
Oh, we need to do the masonry restoration of the exterior of the building, that's the envelope upgrade, so. I mean, that has to be done, I don't remember it being a huge number.
It's, I found it in one of the estimates here. The brick minor repointing and cleaning is $78,000. So that is part of the $245,000 line item.
So that's where it is. That's the masonry number.
Was
Keep
that
in
what we
mind-
decided we didn't need?
No, we
do
we
need.
need that.
We need it all.
Keep in mind that these spreadsheets are an amalgam of a
Yes.
15, 20 page.
20 pages.
This is the cover sheet of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of this, I think.
Actually, no.
That's.
Oh, it's
It's
even,
that.
it's even more, it's that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
This is a summary.
Right. Okay.
But I think that option number 4, and Joan made a good point about the playground, which doesn't show up in option number 4, right? Option number 4 is pretty close to, I think, what the target was. Look at, the committee should discuss the scope that's in option 4, and then and then John will take everything else and put it in, and that will be the sort of the grand option. So the bare bones will be number 1, for simple terms. The grand option, which was the original scope of work, what it now costs to do that, will be option number 2. And option 3 will be what the committee recommends, which shows a financial paring down of what the original scope
With
cost.
the list of what we were proposing to remove.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yep.
Now, that whole scope that you had, has that all been estimated?
Yeah, the big scope has
Yeah.
been estimated.
So you have that number.
We have all those numbers, I think,
that's-
primarily what's been removed is the geothermal, the big site patio, and maybe there's some
And it
bits and
seems like those are the
pieces.
2 big ones.
Those are the 2 big ones, but that's about $1.5 million.
I'm saying $40.
Yeah.
About 2 million.
About
I'm saying
2 million.
It's 2 million.
It's about 2 million just for those 2 items. And the new playground is, to me, minor. I think it was like 170 at the time. So-
Actually, the playground was 225.
But that was with the splash deck too, right?
A lot? We're putting a splash zone in there?
There was the original, I went back to the book, because I'm on the CIP committee, and it was a playground plus splash deck. And that's where the 225 was. It was both items. So,
And we lost that?
I don't have a splash pad. in the scope
it
of
was
work
ARPA
right now.
funded,
Oh,
and
man.
so it's ARPA funded. The funds have got to be expended by June.
Right.
June of this year.
So
and
it's
there's
just
no-
not possible.
It's just not possible.
Can we buy the equipment?
I-
I don't think so.
You have to have it delivered to expect funds.
Do you have to have it
You have to
delivered by
just
June?
spend the funds, under contract funds spent.
Yeah.
Okay, like a contract, okay.
Okay. You don't have any other playscapes that you need to replace?
You just did.
Oh,
We
you
just did a whole bunch, yeah.
It's the last one.
Oh, it's too bad you can't allocate that money towards that.
Well-
Move money around.
Yeah, I mean. Right, I mean, the
bet you
new,
Joan knows how to do
who wants to name a playground after themselves? So anyway, so I think that I think for the gold standard, so to speak, the playground, the 225 for the playground should be put back in. It may even make it back into this, and we may cut something else out potentially. Or we may just say instead of 2.9, it's 2.7, it's 2.9.
Are we putting the baseball field in the grand one too?
The reorientation of the baseball fields and the we
I
might
don't
as
think
well.
you'd have to, if you remove if you remove the current playground, do the septic, replace the playground in the same location, you wouldn't have to.
Right, move the field.
But we have to,
But if we're putting geothermal in the big one, then the fields get reoriented because we're digging up the fields anyway. So that's another million,
And we move
close to
the
$1 million there too.
playground closer to the building where potentially want it.
Right. So I think that has to be added in as well,
that's in the grand scheme, John.
in the grand
Number
scheme.
4.
The grand,
No,
option,
not
option
number,
4 here,
Yes, option.
the option 4 we're talking about here. Add the, you have to add the,
Adding the playground, adding the geothermal.
add the playground, the geothermal, and the baseball field.
And the baseball.
Yeah,
and
if
the
the
ball fields.
geothermal goes, I think the baseball field needs to be redone.
So current option 4 becomes 2,
Becomes option 2, yes.
Correct.
becomes option
Correct.
2, and current option 4 gets added to, and that becomes the big grand number 3.
Correct.
That makes sense?
And
we are still gonna refine number 2, we're just saying, let's get this stuff going, and then we can start diving deep into what we're gonna say is our recommendation and really hit the numbers. Maybe at the next meeting or two.
That's hard.
I'm
That's
sorry.
gonna end up being
No,
option.
Yeah, I'm confused by the numbering
Okay.
scheme at this point.
Yeah.
Option 2 will be
Is-
the grant.
I apologize, so option 2 is the grant component, so that gets our current option 4 with everything added in.
It's going to become option 2. The
Everything.
current option
For the
4.
purpose-
Yeah, so the purpose of presenting.
For the purposes
Okay.
of-
maybe we should,
got
you know, there's committee,
I could whiteboard it right now.
there's committee option 4, that's this, and there's board of selectmen
Board of Selectmen.
option 2. And that should be equal. A little,
Committee option 4 with all the add-ons
right,
becomes,
what we're doing now, putting all
Right.
everything in,
becomes number 2.
board of selectmen off, BOS 2.
BOS 2 and BOS 3 is we start with our current number 4 without any of the adds-ins and see if we're gonna refine it at all.
Or we would actually start with BOS 2,
See if you want to take anything out.
and then take anything out.
BOS 3 is this committee's recommended solution.
Right, so BOS 3 is what I'm saying is, we're pretty much almost there, I thought, with this option 4, or close. I don't think so.
Right, that's, okay, that's
That is the starting point.
As long as we don't miss anything.
BOS option 3 was per L was the full build up, which is option 4
Oh, okay,
for the building committee.
okay,
All right, that's
Okay.
not getting confused because
okay.
the
I think
BOS
you're right.
option number 2 was the recommendations with the
Okay.
VE design,
Okay, got it.
which is, I think, more similar to
Understood, but
building committee number 3.
But what Joan was saying is that, the BOS option 2, which had the recommended solution, that should be presented third when we go to council, and the full rebuild should actually be option 2.
Yes,
Because you want to say, here's our bare bones solution. Here's what it would cost to build the referendum in today's dollars. And then here's what we recommend based on making educated, or making,
Decisions about what is.
And we would probably keep those kind of like in bulletized form, right? When I get down to the weeds.
Yeah.
Right, the
Yes.
geothermal bang.
Right, that's what
It's like,
what's being presented would be for an informational session to the public would be this synopsis with the bullets, what's in and what's out, and this one pager,
well,
so to speak.
if we go to the public, though, we're gonna do like a little presentation, like a PowerPoint thing.
Right, yeah, or to the board of selectmen, but we definitely, we want to make sure that that there aren't any things in the gold stamp, let's say we'll say the platinum, the all in, that we're forgetting, because like, all of a sudden, we're like, okay, if we put this in, then we forgot, if geothermal goes in, it's not just the geothermal, it's also all the costs associated with baseball,
What is
on
that?
top of it,
So
which I don't think is in this number.
No.
It's not in the differential, so, So those are pretty significant numbers, I think.
And the only, as far as the only thing that we've talked about that isn't going to be in any of these is the $1 million, oh no, I guess it might be. The $1 million design for the exterior, for the
Site improvements?
Site improvements. There was one of the sets of sites improvement was really big, but that was the one that moved the playground, so maybe I'm wrong about that.
I was gonna ask, I mean, I was not gonna bring it up, but I was gonna say why, if the committee has the budget now, to build something this town would eventually want, that money goes away, right? We don't.
Right.
Use it. Am I wrong about that?
And then,
For what?
and it's gonna cost more
You're
later.
talking about the grants?
Yeah,
Well, it'll just offset what the town has to bond.
I guess what I'm saying is that money that's gonna be much harder for us to find. If it's something the town would want to have now.
Well, and I think, John does some math outside of here. He could tell us what that all-in number is. They already have an estimated, right? Let's say it's 20 million.
Right.
We're at 16 million, so we know you know what I'm saying? We can. We're
Right.
getting 7, where are we getting? 7.65 million.
Okay, so I guess that we have the concept. How much more do we want to talk about here?
Yes.
Oh, the handout, okay. I'm sorry, Ann.
Hello.
You can't raise your hand in this committee.
The question was asked once, I'm not sure if it was asked enough. What version of the entrance are we talking about?
With
Which option?
the latest, with the all-in, it is the original design, it's not the alternate.
So, okay, I wanted to make
Just to
sure that
clarify
the
that.
original, yeah,
The original, yeah, no, we're not doing the ramp and the stairs. Right.
And the bare bones will be the alternate.
correct, yeah,
And what we recommend is still
is what,
TBD.
is what we recommend.
Yeah, we haven't discussed that in sufficient detail yet.
I think John needs to double check the numbers and scope and make sure what's in is in. We've done a lot of discussions over the last few months on alternate this, take this out, put this in. We want to make sure that everything is in.
And I have the first meeting list on paper. I don't know if I can find it, but I have it on paper.
I'm sure I have it in my bag here. So
I have it on paper too. We all took minutes there.
is that easy for you, John, just to make
So-
sure what was?
So we're gonna have a bare
Yeah,
bones,
that would help.
and we're gonna have an all-in, and maybe the next meeting, we take the all-in and start going book to get to.
And I think we should have that soon enough, since we're giving John enough time. That we would, we'd be able to take some, we'd be able to come prepared with some, so I'll make another motion that we talked about one, or Board of Selectmen 1. John, I'd like to make a motion that Board of Selectmen 2 is the all-in version that we have discussed, that includes everything in the original scope that we've ever discussed. And I don't have to make the motion after this, but what we will do with that, point of that is we will determine what we think makes a viable community center at a more reasonable price, or at a cost that is not all in. It's still a viable, not viable might not be. It still is a community center that meets the profile of what was presented, and will and meet the needs of the town for now and into the future. Nothing, whatever we decide. So that the point is, we're going to take this Board of Selectmen 2 and further either add or subtract to then get a number that we're going to a profile of the community center and a number that we can recommend. We're gonna add something else. I mean, well, it wasn't in the original design.
Right, but it's a good investment to do
Right.
as part of this project.
Next to, you know,
Agreed.
outdoor bathrooms. You know, that's, I'm not sure I'd recommend that, but that would be something that would be, that was not in the original design. It would be something that's useful in the times to come. And so we're putting the damn septic system. It's just, put something over the top of it.
Okay.
Are we done with that conversation?
We're done with that conversation.
So
That's the motion, that's the motion?
That's the motion.
Are we voting on that? Okay.
We're voting on the first part, not the, not the, that
The
John,
first part is the creation of the all in.
all in. Include everything we spoke about and anything we might have left out. And that would be available for us for the next, for our next meeting, before our next meeting.
So I will second
so-
the part we're voting on.
Pardon?
I will second the part we're voting
Okay, any other discussion, any other questions? In favor, say aye.
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 So I said one other thing we should probably put on our agenda going forward. We should probably start reviewing like our program schedule or whatever, so we make sure we're hitting the targets. I'm not sure at this point, you're kind of in a holding pattern, or is that not true?
We are in a holding pattern, because we can't really proceed to construction document phase of work until the work is sort of identified that you want to direct us down the path of. If at some point, let's call it in 2 meetings or 3 meetings, this committee decides to go forward and recommend to the Board of Selectmen that you go to referendum with, let's say, the recommended scope of work, then the committee could choose at that time, in order to save time, we would direct Tom to start doing construction documents for this scope of work. The only fear is that if for some reason we do this work and then it doesn't pass referendum, then you've got to move backwards, there's fee risk there. So, but I don't think that's a conversation you have to have tonight. We're in a holding pattern until we can determine what the direction of the
So
project
when's
is.
the next Board of Selectmen meeting that we need to have this for? I don't know, I just don't want to keep pushing John every 2 weeks with tasks that we're not really getting.
So that's a good referendum for Al and Peggy, because if they are, I had heard, I don't know this for a fact, I just heard loose language that there's an opportunity to potentially put it at the, along with the budget referendum, which I think is in May. I don't know if you passed.
No, that's gone.
Okay. Oh, that's gone, okay.
So it'll be a summertime referendum.
A special referendum.
It'll be a special referendum with the best referendum. The timing of getting a question on the ballot is required. It would have, they would have probably had to pass it this morning in order to.
But John, could we request that you do, not target 2 weeks? Do this at full speed, whatever full speed is, full available speed. And if it were available sooner, we'd have time to look at it. It was available a lot sooner, we could call a special meeting. And we can move the ball forward, if necessary. If we have that opportunity.
When's the next Board of Selectmen?
The next Board of Selectmen meeting is the 25th in the evening.
Tomorrow morning, but then the 25th.
What? Oh, tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, I thought it was this morning. So tomorrow morning, which obviously we're not gonna get there.
We can have it done in an hour.
But Board of Selectmen meeting would be
25th?
the
So
25th. We may want to change our meeting to
What,
be,
target, and get that in by then?
Yeah, when's our meeting?
our meeting is the
The
next
day
day,
after,
the day after.
26th.
You tell me which day. I'll be there. I'll just be
What's the Board of
remoting
Selectmen
in.
meeting, what time?
7 p.m. on March 25th.
Suppose the idea of getting it done. at
In order
5:30.
for it to be on their calendar, in order for it to be on their agenda, it has to be submitted to them by the Thursday before, right, Jeannie?
Yeah, by noon.
The Thursday before. That's the 21st.
So why don't we do the 19th? So week and a day.
Well, do we actually have to have a formal meeting to go over it?
Yes, because you
We
have
have to
to, this,
vote on it, right?
we have to vote on it and we have to vote that this is what we're
Right,
recommending.
we have to,
One of the bigger votes we're gonna take
yeah, we'll
us.
have to take, what we take out, that would be a basket of things that we take out, would be, I think that would be a vote.
If John puts it together and emails it to the group, we can look at it in preparation for the meeting, right? So we all have all of our information ahead of time.
Right, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna say, okay, these are the things we wanna take out, boom, 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 boom.
It'll be quick, but it should at least be a
So, so if we get it on the books for the meeting on the 25th, then you're saying the referendum could be what, Joan?
I don't know, see, because first of all, it has to, the language has to be created, it has to go through, bond council, it has to be approved not only by the Board of Selectmen, but by the Board of Finance, and it also has to have public hearings associated to it, so it's a
No, I know.
several.
It's just that if we lose another construction season, then we're gonna be.
I think we should just do it as fast as we can and let the rest cascade.
Understood, but I'm
Yeah.
saying is that
Is that fast
our
enough?
total numbers will be dependent on.
Well,
when
there's
our
a
start
general
date is.
election in November.
It's not gonna go to. Yeah.
Joe, maybe I should break in here.
Oh, there is Al.
Yeah. We're thinking about June for a possible referendum date. It turns out there, of course, never is a correct referendum date. I don't think it can be ready in May with the budget, but we don't want to lose construction time. We understand that. So even though the selectmen haven't discussed any timing yet, Peggy believes that it would be possible to do it in June.
So that means we should do it at full speed.
Well, it means that, so Al, do you agree you should have the recommendation for the meeting on the 25th?
I think this is such an important issue that the selectmen may want to have a special meeting just to discuss this. This is a long, complex document. You folks have put in a lot of work on this. And I think there will be lots of questions and explanations and all of us reasoning together as to how to go forward. So I think the committee, if you can finish your work tonight, that's wonderful. And then we can signal that we're ready for the selectmen to have a meeting.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to finish tonight. We're wondering if we should hold a special meeting rather than wait for 2 more weeks to have that meeting ourselves.
Obviously, that's the committee's call, sure.
But I think we're leaning towards holding as special as soon as we can.
Yeah, it sounds like they're gonna need a special meeting as well, though.
Right,
So trying to hit the 25th is not,
is no longer.
helpful.
But they can call a special meeting on a,
But I guess the question is, could we have a special meeting a week from now?
Right, or this Friday or whatever. I don't know how long it's taking John to. Tighten up the numbers.
I would go for a week from now. I don't think the difference between Friday and Monday, for our meeting makes, and it gives John the whole weekend to do it. What else?
Yeah, that worked well this week. I
St. Patrick's Day, so Dad's gonna work on Sunday.
What was that, John?
I'm not available next Monday night. I already have another building committee meeting. So I don't know if you were still looking at the Tuesday, you mentioned the 19th.
Yeah.
If you can be here. But
Tuesday the 19th.
I think it's extremely valuable that if we're talking about what's in, what's out, and how did you figure what?
I just can't make the.
I can do the 19th. I can't do the 20th.
That's just for the 19th.
19th.
Do we need a motion, Joe?
yes, I'll move that we create a special meeting, the Academy Building Committee, for Tuesday, March 19th at 5:30, or we still go to the time frame?
Cancel our. Cancel.
Right now, it's probably, I was looking on the town calendar at the same time, and it looked like, that it was fairly, there weren't a lot of meetings that night, so that's why the 19th looked like it was a pretty good time. There's only Board of Assessment Appeals, which is next door, although I don't have the Board of Ed calendar here. So
I think they're in here too.
the Board of Ed's in here?
No, assessment appeals is in.
Is
May
it
and
here versus the, okay,
No, they're in
so,
both rooms.
so we could try to do the bubble then? Oh, they're in both rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they only list right now James Madison room.
Here, Joe Valentine said we could meet in his dining room.
Look, he might not be here, so we can do it at his whole house.
Oh.
Well, leave the key under the mat.
I'm gonna be zooming in, guys. so
Me too, I'll be in one.
But it's gonna be rad.
I'll be in with, but this is critical enough that.
Now, wherever I am, unless I'm on an airplane.
Do we want to do it via Zoom?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Right now, it's not Board of Assessment Appeals, but the Board of Ed's in here at 7:30, and then the Finance Committee is in here at 5:30, and
Okay.
Policy Committee's at 6:30.
So was Board of Ed.
Let's do it online.
Let's do it
Can
online.
we do a Zoom meeting? Okay, so let's do a Zoom meeting.
5:30, Tuesday the 19th. Special meeting.
So I move that we have a Zoom meeting on the 19th.
Second. Any other discussion? In
All in
favor?
favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I think Austin, that might be the timing for the discussion on the stage, right? We want to have, that would be part of the conversation. Be able to do it.
No.
No,
Then would we still meet on the 26th?
We could decide that on the 19th.
we can always cancel that meeting if it's not.
Unless you want to make, do you need to make plans? Is that?
Well, we also want an airplane, so it's just figuring.
Whatever, I think free Wi-Fi most of
At least it's not St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day on a Sunday. That is a
You can tell us now, John, that's why you're not gonna be.
volatile,
It's like having a Super Bowl on Sunday, right? Monday.
I still think we should have a national holiday the day after the Super Bowl. No one wants to listen to
All
that.
right, what else you have on your agenda?
Okay, that's, we also have, any other public comment?
If it's okay with you all, I was able to call up the application. So I can tell you to AJ's point, when he asked before what's included in that grant that Peggy was talking about. So in the problem statement that she wrote, the Academy Community Center will repurpose an historic former school building vacant. I don't think you need to know that. Madison currently lacks a community center. We get to the description and proposal for the use of federal funds. Academy project design calls for the renovation of the existing building, supplemented by upgrades and hazardous material abatement. Will provide flexible, multi-use and dedicated community spaces along with offices, clinical and programming space for related municipal social services. The flexible community space is expected to be used for programming activities related to arts, education, recreation, and culture for all ages and demographics.
Scott?
Yep.
For the rest, could you speak louder?
Yeah.
The people online have trouble.
Okay.
So speak it, give me a speaker.
As long as I can. Activities might include visual arts, performing arts, music, theater, cultural activities, adult education, culinary arts, social activities, youth programs, sports and recreation, business expos, and other recreational activities. The building is approximately 50,000 square feet and has 3 levels that will be accessible to the community. Below is a breakdown of a preliminary space utilization plan. Flexible community space, approximately 30,000 square feet of space of programming, including a 5,400 square foot gymnasium, 2,500 square foot, 125 seat theater, and 1,150 square foot commercial kitchen. Youth and family service offices and programming space, approximately 6,000 square feet for offices and dedicated programming space in the area of youth services, wellness, and mental health services. Beach and recreation and senior offices, approximately 1,000 square feet of office space for staff and building management. And then it includes some other things, but that's the pertinent stuff. So that's what was written into the grant, so that's what would have to be included in whatever.
So we need to meet all of those requirements in order to get that grant.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that includes the commercial kitchen.
Yeah, but when you get the grant, it may have stipulations to it.
And and I mean, I could send this application, I think it's probably be helpful for everyone to have, so you can see what was included.
Okay, could you do that, please, Scott?
Yes,
Thank you.
a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
Any, are there any other items to discuss? Motion to adjourn?
Oh, is there any public online? Second. So moved.
So moved.